So always in the summer we get these beautiful stories from the Hebrew scriptures. This day we get a story from Genesis. This is the story of Hagar. If you'll recall, I'll just give you a brief recap. God promised Abraham that God would give Abraham children and Abraham would become a great nation. And then it kept not happening. Abraham resorted to plan B and had a child with his servant, Hagar. And now that Abram and Sarah have had a child of their own, they no longer want plan B. They no longer know what to do with Hagar and Hagar's child. And so listen to this reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 21, beginning at verse 8. Genesis 21 and 8. Listen to what the Spirit might speak into your life in this reading from the story of Hagar. The child Isaac grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman and her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit alongside my son Isaac." The matter was very distressing to Abraham on account of his child. But God said to Abraham, "Do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your servant woman. Whatever Sarah says to do, do as she tells you. For it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named for you. As for the son of the slave woman, I will make a nation of him also, because he is your offspring." So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she cast the child under one of the bushes. Then she sat down opposite him a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot. For she said, "Do not let me look on the death of my child." And as she sat opposite him, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Do not be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Come, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make a great nation of him." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave it to the boy to drink. God was with the boy, and he grew up, and he lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother got a wife for him from the land of Egypt. And our second reading, our reading from the Gospels today, is taken from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 24 through 39. We get some really beautiful words in this reading, and we get some really hard words. And so I'd invite you in Matthew 10, beginning at verse 24, to listen to what the Spirit might speak into your life today. Jesus is speaking, and he says this: "A disciple is not above the teacher, nor is a servant above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher, and the servant like the master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebul, how much more will they malign those of his household? So have no fear of them, for nothing is covered up that will not be uncovered, and nothing is secret that will not become known. What I say to you in the dark, tell it in the light, and what you have heard whispered, proclaim it from the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear the one who can destroy both body and soul in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for 1 penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. And even the hairs of your head are all counted. So do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who acknowledges me before others, I also will acknowledge them before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I also will deny them before my Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to earth. I have come not to bring peace, but a sword. I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Holy wisdom, holy word. Thanks be to God. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? I wonder how inflation would change that quote. Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from God. And even the very hairs of your head are counted. So do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Luke puts it a little differently. This is Matthew. Luke says it this way, and I like it very much. It's nice. In Luke, Jesus says, "Do not fear, little flock. You are worth more than many sparrows." But what's a single sparrow worth? Really? What's a little bird worth? A plain little bird, a brown and white bird. What's a sparrow worth? One little life that lasts 2, maybe 3 years in the wild. One little life that any mean old owl or neighborhood cat could end violently in just a moment. A sparrow knows things that you will never know. And a sparrow sees the world in ways that you will never see it. Can you create such a delicate little creature, so perfectly suited for life in the skies, with her hollow bones and her different-sized feathers and her aerodynamic beak and tail? You can destroy a sparrow, but you could never create one. It's a wonder, it's a mystery. Her life, too, has real value, for all life springs from the mystery of eternity. And it is not to be dismissed or treated as unimportant. The plainest of the birds cannot fall from the sky without God's concern. And as valuable and as beloved as sparrows are, I've always heard this said as a dismissive thing. Oh, birds. But I think what Jesus is saying here is even something as important as a sparrow, you're worth many of them, more than many sparrows. This is a thing we sometimes forget, that God cares about the little things in life too. Not just the big things, not just the monumental things, but the small things. Even a bird is somehow led by God. So my wife started a firestorm on Facebook, and I'm glad she's here today to hear about it. When the NFL draft was here in town, she posted this thought to her Facebook page. This is a quote. "This NFL draft just might turn me into a football watcher." It's super interesting if they would just stop thanking their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for making them millionaires. What do you think of that? I'm not putting anyone on trial here, but what is your theological response to that statement? How would you respond? Does Jesus care if this guy makes the team and this guy does not? This is a theological quandary that scholars have contemplated for ages. Is Tim Tebow right to thank Jesus whenever he passes a touchdown? Does Jesus care which team wins the football game? Aren't there bigger things to worry about? Things that sometimes seem to be getting neglected, like peace on earth? Aren't there more important things to occupy God's concerns? And why would Jesus care? Is it because he likes one team better than the other? That's no fair. And if so, again, why? Does Jesus mostly look out for football players, or does the rule apply to basketball players and soccer players and players of other sports as well? When Belgium plays later today against Iran in the playoffs for the World Cup, is God going to take sides? in that? Will God have political reasons for taking sides in that? I'm a Belgium fan myself, but I don't care about soccer. I just like the country. I think it's quaint. But if Belgium plays Iran, is God going to consider Belgium's historical record? Because that might work against them, the whole Congo thing. Is God going to take into account Iran's present sufferings? I would hope so. What does God care about? And what does God just let slide? What does God intervene in? And what does God not intervene in? And how does God decide? Well, responses to Michelle's Facebook post ranged all the way from brief words of agreement, oh yeah, I feel the same, to outraged objections and long theological treatises. One Black Baptist pastor said, when you don't come from privilege, you understand that God has sustained you and provided you with the strength and the ability to play football. That makes sense to me. A pastor who went to seminary with us said to her a little condescendingly, gratitude is a good thing. You might need to rethink this. Someone else agreed with Michelle and said, I was asking the same question myself. Another Black pastor said, this is why the white church is in decline. The issue became racial. It became theological. It became classist and oddly very fraught with emotion and accusation. One person affiliated with this church raised the question that haunts me whenever people thank God for finding their car keys. Is God in the business of deciding who gets what, of deciding which child gets sick and which child gets a pony? Though she didn't exactly use those words. Why would God arrange for this guy to make the team, but send not a single angel with a flaming sword to block a cattle car going to Auschwitz? What's God thinking? People get quite passionate about this question. What is God's intention? When and where and why does God intervene? Does God intervene? What does God care about? What does God not care about? And yet, God's eye is on the sparrow, as that beautiful old spiritual tells it. And as hard as it is to sing that high-pitched song, and despite the fact that it was sung while I was absent just a few weeks ago, I think it feels fitting to sing it at the end of this service once again. His eye is on the sparrow, for it expresses a truth that we find in the Gospels and in the comforting words of Christ in today's reading. But not everything we heard in today's reading from Matthew was comforting, was it? Some of that stuff was downright hard. Indeed, we've just heard, I think, maybe Jesus' hardest words right here, mingled with some of his most comforting. He says, I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. I have come to set a person against their own parents. Whoever loves their own child more than me is not worthy of me. And those who find their life will lose it. This is hard. This is hard stuff. What could Jesus possibly mean when he says all of this? This Jesus, this Christ whom we prefer to imagine as a doe-eyed poet, a cocker-spaniel-eyed dreamer. I hear the sad truth of these hard words echoing in my own life, and perhaps you do too. One of my oldest friendships has been shattered on the rocks of what I must take to be the teachings of Jesus, namely, who is my neighbor, and should I love them or should I hate them? Should I love them or should I chase them away? Christ has brought a sort of division into one of my oldest relationships, and I feel it. I love this old friend, and we tried kind of to maintain our relationship, but we reached a place of weary stagnation where there seemed little way forward. Is that what Jesus means when he says that we have to love him more, his principles, his teachings more than our own life? I think so. I think what he's saying here is that his principles and teachings have to make their way so deep into our lives that they shape our relationships. And we have to keep on loving, which is hard and tiresome sometimes. But that is an aside. He says something beautiful here too. He says, God even cares for the birds. God's eye is on the sparrows, even the plainest of the birds. God cares about every detail of our lives, every little thing. For each of us is worth more than many sparrows, and even sparrows are worth more than you might have thought. So, back to the question, what's a sparrow worth? What is a sparrow worth? Why would you ever buy a sparrow? Who wants a sparrow? What's any life worth, great or small? What's it worth to be a college football player who gets recruited to the NFL, especially one who may have gone to college on a scholarship after growing up in poverty? What's it worth to be skyrocketed into a whole new tax bracket by the skills and abilities that God has given you? What's it worth when you feel overwhelmed with gratitude and you just want to say thanks and you're not sure how and you're not sure to whom? You just want to be grateful. Because I think that's what most of these kids were doing. They were just grateful. They wanted to say thanks to someone. It's ungodly what we pay athletes in this country, I know. And I think that was part of the point of the post. What we pay these athletes, they're catapulted into a deeply broken system of twisted values where they will earn that much more than school teachers and firefighters and people who work for the good of their neighbor and not just the entertainment of their neighbor. We don't know what anything's worth, do we? We don't. We don't really know in the end what anything is worth or anyone is worth. We don't know who deserves what or what they deserve. Here is a thing to consider. Jesus says that 2 sparrows are sold for a penny, adjusted for inflation, let's say $1, 50 cents a piece. But he's not saying that 2 sparrows are worth $1. He's saying that's the price tag that we slap on a thing that we don't understand. That's the price tag we give to a thing that we couldn't begin to create ourselves. A thing that isn't fully our own. It's a mistake to slap a price tag on a life, on an experience, on a quiet day spent with a person that we love, on anything, really. We do it all the time. But we end up misevaluating the worth of things because we measure them in dollars. And yet God is present in the great and in the small. And God is moving in each moment that comes our way and which goes fleeting past. God is present in our hours of boredom and sameness and tedious routine, just as God is present in instances of glory and warmth and peace. We cannot tell what any of them is worth. We don't know where any of them will lead us. All we can do is marvel at their mystery and sense God's nearness and God's love in all of them. And so back to the question, why would God destine some kids for the NFL while other kids just as worthy end up working a job they hate or no job at all? Does God do such things? Or is there a degree of happenstance in all of it? And if you allow for even just a degree of happenstance, does that make the whole system come unraveling and crashing down? Let's take a deep breath and admit something that we all know, but that we never want to admit, especially not in church, and that is this. It's beautiful, it's a freeing truth. We don't know. We just don't know. And it's okay to not know. In fact, it's good to not know sometimes. We don't know. You know how it is when you give a handful of pocket change to an unhoused person in the streets? What does that person almost invariably say to you? Almost invariably, across the board. They say, God bless you. That's exactly right. They don't know your beliefs about God. You don't know their beliefs about God. And yet they've invoked a theological principle here. They're calling upon all that they can say that is holy and good and right. You've just done something that is holy and good and right. Thank you. I want to give you back whatever I can. And if it's just these words of blessing in the name of a God that maybe we don't agree about, I want to give you that. I want to call upon all that is good, to bless you with all that is good because of the blessing you have given me. We give what we can. That person is reaching for a thing that only the word God seems to approach. It's simple gratitude. It's just their way of saying thank you for seeing me. Thank you for caring. And even if they go and spend it on a bottle of liquor, as many fear that they would, they're still blessing you and thanking you for seeing them and caring about them. We do not know what a moment is worth, or a day, or a glance exchanged, or an expression of goodwill. We do not know what a person is worth or what an experience is worth. We don't even know what a sparrow is worth. I'm sure it's worth more than half a penny. And we certainly do not know why or if God destined some for the NFL and others to live paycheck to paycheck. I like to hope that in the grand scheme of God's big economy of holiness and love, all are loved in the end, and everyone gets everything they need. Sometimes in the absence of clear beliefs, we settle for hopes. And doesn't the great love chapter of 1 Corinthians number hope among the three things that endure forever? Hope, faith, and love. It doesn't say belief. Hope. The mysteries of the universe are many, but what do we know in this life? What do you really know? If we look closely at our own journey through this world, which most of us don't do as often as we should, we ought to do it at least daily. If we look closely at our own journey through this world, if we look at the things that have happened to us and through us and around us and within us, and the changes and the graces and the little seeming happenstances that changed everything for us, we will realize that in a sense we have been led, just as the sparrows have been led, that we cannot fully take credit for all the good things that come our way, that our pilgrimage of years has not been hopeless or random. We have been led. God has been present in the little things and in the big things. This is as true for football players as it is for you and for each and every bird that we hear singing right now. You have been led, despite perhaps often feeling lost. You do not need to worry about tomorrow. You don't need to worry about the ones you love. Although we must all suffer, there is one who attends to the sparrows, and you have been and are being led. God is intimately present in even the tiniest details of our lives, and what that means I don't exactly know. Hold that awareness close to you, because you are worth more than many sparrows, and they're worth a lot. Amen.